charge Hillary, or not to recommend charges against Hillary Clinton for gross negligence, frankly. If you look up gross negligence, as we talked about in the last segment, she was grossly negligent, and yet he's recommending no charges. So what else is wrong with the Hillary people, and why should they not be charged? Now, if you're not aware, Hillary's right-hand gal, her girl Friday, so to speak, is Huma Abedin, who, like Valerie Jarrett to Barack Obama, is a Muslim and has the ear of the Queen in this instance. And you have to ask yourself, is it mere coincidence that both Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have a senior Muslim advisor as their key advisor, right? Does that not bother anybody? I would think it should bother people a little bit. Now, Barack Obama has a lot of Muslims in his administration, and you can say, oh, he's just being diverse. He's being plenty diverse. Well, if you look at the cabinet and the key people around Barack Obama, I'm not sure that they would really be considered diverse anymore. But maybe in his mind it's diversity, but in mine it's not. And Hillary Clinton has Huma Abedin as her key advisor, who will be, again, right next to the president's ear if Hillary is elected. And you have to ask yourself, now, just on the sheer judgment's sake, this is the woman that's married to Anthony Weiner. If that doesn't tell you how odd and how weird that person is to have as a chief advisor, you're the one that needs help. Anthony Weiner's wife is the chief advisor to Hillary Clinton. That alone right there should set people's ears ablaze. Do you really want a president who has Anthony Weiner's wife as a chief advisor? Now, Huma Abedin's been under investigation along with a lot of the top Hillary staff. They're all interviewing and talking to the FBI and the committees and the Benghazi committees and everybody else. These people are all being investigated as witnesses or potential witnesses or even people who may have done something wrong. But Huma Abedin admitted this last week that she burned schedules of Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State because she was meeting with donors and people that would be conflict of interest between her Secretary of State role and her role with the Clinton Foundation. And if you think this is going to stop just because she becomes president, you're not. You don't know Bill Clinton, obviously. The fact that Bill Clinton would go ahead last week and stop and visit the Attorney General in the middle of an investigation of his wife, the corruption is so huge, so rampant. You know, this is the kind of corruption in the old days we would blame on the Mubarak regime in Egypt or Gaddafi regime in Libya or the Shah in Iran. You want to talk about corruption? The corruption now between the Clintons and even the Republicans. Paul Ryan is complicit in helping to destroy this country. He's helping bring more Syrian refugees here. Do we need yet more refugees when we can't take care of the people we have here? We can't take care of the illegal immigrants and refugees we have here now. We are all spending our tax dollars to take care of them, and they hate our guts. They hate our way of life. Why does somebody want to come here if they hate our way of life? If you want to keep your Sharia and your other parts of your lifestyle or your corruption, your cartel corruption, your drug corruption in Mexico, stay in Mexico. It's welcome there. You love your Sharia? Stay in Syria. Stay with ISIS. It's welcome there. Don't come here and spread this soft jihad, whatever it is. If you're an American, be an American. Live by the Constitution, live by our rules, our cultural values. These things are all important. But I digress. We're talking about Hillary Clinton and how the corruption. I use the hashtag Clinton Crime Syndicate all the time on Twitter. If you haven't gone to Twitter or haven't joined Twitter, do so. It's not as difficult as you would think. I signed up and never used it for about a year until the very first debate this last June, and a year ago June. And it's really quite easy, very entertaining. And it's a great way to get your message out to a lot of people or to reinforce other people's messages. It's what I like about Twitter. It's quick, it's easy, it's fast. It's not like Facebook where you can get into a long, drawn-out conversation or argument with somebody. And you can sculpt that world so if you're not comfortable talking to Clinton people, you don't have to. You can get around that. But I would encourage you to be open-minded and talk to those people because you know what? Some of them their minds can be changed. And that works both ways. Maybe you'll become a Democrat. I doubt it. If you're listening to this show, that's probably not happening. But it does. But I want to assure people that, you know what, you have to be involved this election. You have to be reading these stories I put up on thedailydrift.com. You have to be sharing them. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Google+, whatever you're using, make sure you get on. Do them all. The more active you are, the better off you're going to be, because there's a ton of people who aren't active. We've become so complacent in this country. And that's how we've ended up where we are with this giant pot of corruption in Washington, D.C., because we just keep flipping the lever for that Republican, or we keep flipping the lever for that Democrat because the name's familiar to us. We know who that person is. Well, we think we know who that person is. You can't do that. Primary's coming up in August, right? You need to take a very serious, whether you're voting Democrat or Republican, you need to take a very serious look at who else is running in the primary. If your congressman is not, and that's at the state or federal level, if they are not doing what you want them to do, vote for the new guy. Roll the dice. Shake it up. The devil you know is not always better than the devil you don't. You know, we like to use that devil you know thing along with the lesser of two evils that always comes out about, we're always talking about evil when we're talking about government? It strikes me as a little odd. Does it strike you as odd? I don't know. Anyways. But make sure you're spending a little time doing what you need to do before these primary elections and before the general election in November. If you haven't gotten to the current, go make sure you do it. There's a lot of good information in the current for local elections. We've got some fine people running for county commissioner, and those elections are just as important as any national election, let me assure you. Make sure you're taking care of your school board people, your township people, your county commissioners. Spend a little time and do your due diligence. Same with judges. You may not be able to have an effect on the Supreme Court of the United States, but you can certainly look at your local court system and help elect some of those judges who may or may not have the same values that you do. So spend a little time on that. Okay, enough talk about Clintons for a while. I'm Clintoned out. Don't want to discuss it anymore because it makes my blood boil. If it doesn't make your blood boil, there's something wrong with you. I did want to talk a little bit this segment about what the Dems are doing on Zika and Planned Parenthood. Now, people want to blame the Republicans for not funding some new Zika budgets and taking care of the Zika virus and whether it's spreading here in the United States. And it will. Mosquitoes have a tendency to spread, and that virus will spread. And so you'll probably begin seeing in some of our southern states mosquitoes that bear that. They're not going to be just people coming back from overseas with the Zika virus and causing the microcephaly among young children being born. But the Democrats keep yelling that it's the Republicans holding up the Zika funding. Well, it's not. I want people to, up on the Daily Drift this week, the Democrats are using Zika funding to help fund Planned Parenthood. This is what the Democrats seem to do. They like to play this game. Oh, the Republicans do it. I know. Yes, they all do it. They're all spreading their special interests. This is why I would love to see a new rule in Congress that, you know what, you have to be germane to the issue you're talking about. You can't be adding in all these different amendments that have nothing to do with the subject you initially start out with, in this case, Zika funding. If you're going to fund the research and development, the mosquito control, that sort of thing, that's all related. But yet the Democrats are saying we need to fund Planned Parenthood as part of this Zika funding. And that's why the Republicans are holding off. They're trying to keep these amendments on Zika that bring in funding for Planned Parenthood out. Now, say what you want about Planned Parenthood. If they're not just out there taking care of women's health issues, they are providing abortions. That's a big chunk of what they do. And if you don't want to pay for that, you shouldn't have to. I mean, let's face it, over 60 million children have died, right, in abortions in this country. And that's, frankly, flat-out murder. Don't talk about it. Here you're worried about Zika children, and yet you're not worried about the abortions of killing off healthy children. It's crazy. So don't fall for the same trap. This is what the media wants to do. They want to always blame it on the Republicans, and yet it's not the Republicans. It's the Democrats doing something shady by funding Planned Parenthood in this Zika funding action on Capitol Hill. So don't believe what you're seeing in the media, folks, is what I'm trying to tell you. Don't just buy that wholesale garbage that you're getting off of ABC News or NBC News or MSNBC or even Fox, right? You make sure you're doing your own homework and digging in a little deeper. With the internet, there's no reason you should not be able to do a little more digging on your own. It's that easy. Go to thedailydrift.com. I do a lot of that digging for you. All right, so we got a hard break coming up, and when we come back, we're going to continue with stories off the Daily Drift. We'll see you on the other side.
Can you remember the feeling you had the last time you read a really great article? Wouldn't you like to experience that again? If so, then consider Freeman's Perspective. Freeman's Perspective is brought to you by highly respected freedom philosopher Paul Rosenberg. This monthly newsletter features useful and interesting insights you literally can't get anywhere else. The topics vary, but one thing is clear. They're always insightful, always interesting, and always ready to leave you feeling just a little bit wiser. Best-selling author Doug Casey calls it, in his classic understated way, not only sound, but entertaining and instructive too. And now you are invited to take a 30-day free test drive of the letter. No obligation and no credit card required. All you have to do is visit freemansradiospot.com and enter your name and email address. You'll get access to the entire library of Freeman's Perspective. Go to freemansradiospot.com to join and see what other smart people just like you are raving about. Absolutely free. That's freemansradiospot.com.
You're listening to The Drift on Wham Talk 1600. Join in the conversation at 734-822-1600. Now, back to your host, Gary Wellings.
And welcome back. Thanks for tuning in to catch my drift here at Wham Talk 1600. And if you miss these live shows, you can catch them on podcast at Conservative Radio Network Saturday and Sunday evenings. And, of course, they're always archived at thedailydrift.com. Just click on the Common Sense Radio tab above. So plenty of shows on there, dating all the way back to my very first show here when I got thrown into the studio. And it's there. So go to thedailydrift.com, check it out. And that's what we do every Saturday here. We talk about the news we've put up on thedailydrift.com. So we kind of savaged Hillary Clinton and the FBI this last half hour here. And rightfully so, if you ask me. Inexcusable that the FBI would not go after Hillary Clinton and recommend some charges. But, hey, that's your federal corrupt government in charge. But, hey, let's take care of a little business. This half hour is brought to you by J&M Landscaping, LLC, licensed and insured with 25 years of tree removal experience. Lot clearing, full tree removal, tree trimming, stump grinding, pruning, you name it, they get it done. 248-640-7029. Jason and his crews are good guys. They do a great job. I had them remove a tree in my backyard. They did a wonderful job, so I got firsthand experience with these guys. All kinds of discounts are available, residential and commercial. And in the current this month, July issue, there's a 20% off coupon for first-time customers. That's good until the middle of August. You can also get 2 stumps removed for free with a tree removal. So check them out. If you don't have the current available, you can download it or print it off from currentonline.com. Or just tell Jason, call him up and say, hey, Gary told me to call you and get my discount, 248-640-7029, or you can send him an email, j_m_landscaping at yahoo.com. Give him a call. They're licensed, bonded, and insured. So when you're removing trees, it's not something you just want to fool with or have the neighbors do. It's an issue. You can hurt yourself or hurt others. So get it done the right way. Call J&M Landscaping. Okay, so we were talking about Hillary Clinton this last half hour, but there's a ton of other news, and if you're not going to thedailydrift.com, you should, www.thedailydrift.com, and join me on Twitter, at GaryDailyDrift, and you can look me up on Facebook if you prefer to do that as well. I'm also on there. Okay, so you've been looking at Hillary Clinton, but let's not let other stories slip away from us. On the Daily Drift this last week, we had some good stuff, including a story about how the national debt still climbing. We're over $19 trillion, and it jumped nearly $100 billion in one day. One day. U.S. national debt is creeping up again after holding steady for the last few months, thanks to the annual flood of individual and corporate tax receipts. Total government debt hit a record $19.38 trillion on Thursday, up nearly $98 billion from the day before. $98 billion in one day. One day. And the debt